What if Deku was a son of All for One? How would this impact the story in the ways that you would not understand, or the ways that I wouldn't even understand myself? But this is why we're doing the story today. What would change, what would stay the same, and what quirks would Izuku Midoriya or Izuku Shigaraki obtain in his story? Well, we'll be learning that today. To see more videos like this in the future, make sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe, because these videos are going to take me longer to make because I'm putting more effort in. I did promise you guys more effort in when I did get the chance to, and now I do. Hope you all enjoy. We will be starting off where Izuku is 6 years of age. As Izuku and Inko were both walking through the mall, but that wouldn't last for long on their peaceful stroll. Izuku, honey, where would you want to go for the rest of the day? Well, I would think about going near the hero shop, somewhere around there, Izuku said. Let me guess, the only reason why you want to go there is for All Might, Inko said. Maybe? Izuku, you have enough as it is. You don't need that many more hero stuff. But All Might's new action figure came out and I was just wondering if I could get it and see how much it costs, Izuku said. You know your father gives quite a lot of decent amount of money over to keep us alive. You know that, Izuku. Yeah, I know. It's just that I barely even see him anymore. The last time I saw him was last year. He hasn't contacted us or wrote, he just sends money, Izuku said. As Izuku and Inko both walked through the stores until they arrived at Izuku's destination. He went in to have a look, but unbeknownst to them, a fight was brewing on the outer walls of the mall. All for One, damn you! Why won't you stay down? All Might shouted. One for all will still be mine, no matter what you do, Toshinori. Even if you break my bones, I'll just regenerate them. It's no big deal. My quirk will keep me alive, while yours will just kill you and drain you of your life energy. Watch as I take over. All for One through one final blast, which will bring in our protagonist into this part of the story. Look, Mum, there it is. As All Might, well, something, came flying through the wall. As Izuku saw it at the blink of his eye, as something came bolting past him at a sonic-like speed. As it passed his eye, as the only thing he saw after that was dust debris picking up, and one massive bang, until half of the area that Izuku was in was collapsed and looking like a war zone. Izuku, duck! Inko shouted before, or well, after the aftermath was attained. As Inko climbed onto Izuku and pushed him into the store, as debris fell in between them. As Izuku didn't know what was happening at the tender age of 6, he didn't even know what was going on. The only thing he saw was his idol getting thrown, and his mother pushing him into the store where they were, trying to save him. Come on, Toshi. Is that all you got? All for One said, looking down at him like some form of pity march. Damn you, All for One. You will pay for what you did to my master. Oh, you mean Nana? She was easy to kill. Just like the back of my hand. It was too easy. As All for One would regret this, as All Might would rush him, blindsiding the woman who was next to him. In his fit of rage, he hit All for One with 100%, leaving a crater into the city, and sending All for One flying sideways into the other but dust and debris. As All for One would stand on its feet, but noticing a green-haired woman on the side of where he was. As All for One didn't take a second glance until it was too late. Inko? All for One said, as All Might kept on pummeling at All for One, as All for One couldn't activate any other quirks. The only one he could activate was the one trying to shield Inko from the up-and-coming attacks, to try and save her the best he could. As All Might not looking for casualties, well, he couldn't do. who was in his own fit of rage at the time, as All Might kept on pummeling at All for One until he stopped moving and he went limp. At that point, All Might stopped beating up All for One and looked around as his adrenaline came down. As All Might looked finally around him to realize all the damage and destruction he did was from, well, him and All for One's fight. Instead of minimizing casualties, he increased them and almost killed some people along with it. Hell, he probably even did kill somebody, but that's just him. As Izuku tried to move as many rocks as he could to try and get to his mother. As he finally got out, Izuku saw All Might bloody, beaten, and a hole in his chest. As Izuku finally went over and asked All Might where his mother was, as All Might pointed to a dead corpse. Well, kid, I don't know how to say this to you, but your mother is... As Inko started coughing rapidly, as Izuku went over to her as fast as he could and saw her in the flesh. She was okay, bruised, but okay. She wasn't perfect by all means, but she was alive. As Izuku saw above a person's body, well, near him, as on second glance Izuku saw that it kinda resembled somebody that he knew. Like somebody he hasn't seen for about a year, maybe a little bit older, somewhere around there, he would think. But we all know what this is, and I think you guys know who watching what this is as well. Dad? Izuku said, as All Might's ears perked up at that one thing as he tried to hold in all the blood leaving from his body at that moment. All for One had a son, All Might said, as All Might tried to run over, but he couldn't move. He was stunned by all means that All for One tried to actually have a family and tried to live out, but this didn't really suit him, All Might would think, but it was possible for him to have a kid. Not saying that it wasn't. He's 170 years old. You would think his swimmers won't be working at that time, wouldn't you? You would think that. As Izuku ran over to, well, his father at the time, Izuku looked at him, seeing that his head was completely busted, as his brain was just holding in by all the regeneration quirks he stockpiled. Izuku, All for One said. Oh, let's just call him Shigaraki. It seems easier to do. Izuku, my boy. Man, you have grown. I'm not gonna be here for long for now, okay? I'm gonna be gone for a couple of years, but once I come back, you'll see me in full force, okay, bud? All for Shigaraki said, as Shigaraki placed his hand on Izuku's head and let some blood trickle into his system. Here you go, my boy. I know I should have gave you this sooner, but here you go. As All for One handed Izuku one of the biggest gifts he could possibly give him. The gift of taking other gifts, also known as All for One. As All for One at that point disappeared in some black mist, never to be seen again. As we are going to fast forward 6 years after this event, Izuku is now 15 years of age. I know you guys are going to say my math's off, but if you think about a week before he turned 16, it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? As Izuku, the past year, would be greeted with a bunch of pro heroes at his door, with All Might still keeping his mouth shut about the All for One secret with his son. But it never really stopped All Might from keep on going into Izuku's address, seeing how he was, and trying to build him up to be a hero, and not like his father, where he was, stealing quirks willy-nilly, and not giving anything back to society, except from pure pain and torture, and leaving people to die. Well, Izuku, on the other hand, when he got a handle of All for One, Around 10 years of age, he stole his first quirk. He finally understood why his dad was gone for so long, and why his father liked stealing them so much. The adrenaline and dopamines that would go through his body every single time he stole a quirk would be exponentially, well, bigger than what he ever could understand. When he stole his first quirk, it was elongated fingers, which he thought was useless, but using other people's powers to add to his own, well, it was pretty cool in that sense. False quirk activation and long fingers, enabling to him to extend his fingers even more than what his father could in his prime when he tried to steal quirks away from people by not even clamping his hands on their head. As Izuku would try his best to evolve that quirk along with the rest of him he would have from the rest of him from his father, like air cannon, wind compression, blood curdle, but an off-branded stain one, body enhancement, multiplier power, and a bunch other ones that could be inside the power as a skill tree, as well, Tomoe Shigaraki would put it. But on one of these days and occasions, Izuku's middle school would be, well, let's just say the same things from canon would take place, but the moment Bakugo started to know about Izuku's quirk stealing ability, let's just say it tried to increase it when Izuku first used it, but it really didn't go anything past teasing or basic push in the corridor. They tried to take his mental and not his physical, because they knew if Izuku went physical with them toe to toe, it would not go very well. Bakugo knew if he get even close to Izuku with the power that he had, he would kind of literally just be quirkless at that point, and Bakugo saw it as no reason to live. Being quirkless? It's just a death sentence for you to just sit there and just let yourself die. Bakugo would think that, but he would think that sooner than what he would think about it. As the sludge villain incident, well, Izuku would just take his quirk. There's no point in having a sludge villain attack you and you don't steal his fucking quirk, am I right? As a sludge villain man, well, he turned back into a normal human. Ish. His hands were his feet was his arms, and his organs were switched around. So, I'm pretty sure he's dead. Well, as All Might came across Izuku, seeing that he stole the villain's quirk again, as All Might would try and reprimand Izuku for the thing he did, as Izuku's only response to that was, okay. As Izuku just walked straight past All Might and pat him on the shoulder. You can have your next one sooner or later, Toshi, Izuku said. As Izuku walked back home and sat down to debate what he was going to be doing for the rest of his life. Find his father and let him explain how All for One really truly worked. The man has almost 170 years of experience with the quirk, while he only had 10. He understood the basics of it, but he knew there was more to it at the time. He saw black vestiges. Well, he called them vestiges. All for One called them something else. Izuku saw every last vestige that All for One took, and he took as well. Little mirror images of the past users surrounding All for One. A little giant black virus type of flame inside of the center, as they both held their hands out, ready to take it for themselves or lend it its power. 9 months later, after this inclusion, Izuku finally made his mind up to go to UA and see if he can run into his father at that point, because if he goes to the top hero schools, he's guaranteed to get targeted by his father at some point, or even if he's planning to get targeted by any form of villain. He knew his father would have connections to them at the time, so he went for it and explored the rest. He trained his body, became stronger as he could. With the extra quirks added on, well, you know how tall he would have gotten. Izuku, the gentle giant who can literally take your power away from you like some form of boogeyman, entered the UA gates to start what he could think about would be his hero journey. Quotation marks, of course. But that's where we're going to leave off today's video. Hope you all enjoyed. If you guys want a part 2 to this series, give this video to around 100 likes and you guys will get the next part out as soon as possible. Thank you all for being here and have an amazing day. Cheers.